I'll be honest with you folks, it doesn't get any better than this. These two tools, these two pocket tools, are the best you could possibly have in terms of realistic pocket carry for the average person. If you're going to be carrying a folding knife and a multi-tool, in my opinion, and something that it's trying to be as objective as possible, it would be a folding knife that it's going to be intended specifically for defensive uses, and a multi-tool that is going to be just doing that, being a general purpose tool that you carry in your pocket. You just cannot do better than this. The Cold Steel Extra Large Voyager Vaquero is the best blade for defensive purposes that you could fold and carry in your pocket. Anything smaller will not be as good. Anything with a different grip, the grip being so well made that it allows for a solid hole on the blade. It has a great finger growth so as to afford good protection in your finger. The S curved blade, the penetrating tip, it just gets everything done well. Not only well, it gets everything done excellent in terms of a defensive blade. And if it's something else, it's going to be something along these lines, maybe some of the other very large Cold Steel blades. But you cannot do better than this for a defensive purpose folder. And same thing goes for the multi-tool. You cannot do better than Leatherman Charge TTI. The Wave is very similar, and this would be the premium version of the Wave, with all the tools that you could possibly wish for, and all of them being well made. Even a blade made of excellent steel, such as this one, that it's functional, that it's great for a multi-purpose blade, so as to compensate, so as to be used for all those tasks where you're not going to be using your defensive purpose blade. These two would compromise, in my opinion, the perfect setup. So why is that I'm bringing this up? Well, because the video, guys, this is Fernando doing another video for Modern Survivalists, is about this guy. It's about the Victorinox Tinker. And I bring this up because why would you want to have anything else other than what's the best? You know, that's the way I look at it. Why would I want to have anything else other than the best possible setup? And the thing is that if I view it that way, then there's really not much of a space for discussion. And the reason why I believe there's even a room for discussion is that our realities are all different. Maybe your reality means that you don't need to have one of these. Maybe you actually have with you a real actual fixed blade with you because of the kind of work that you do, the kind of lifestyle that you have. So you already have a fixed blade knife with you, and you don't need a monster folder in your pocket. So that already changes the parameters that we're using. Maybe you're not comfortable having something that it's bigger and heavy because of the way you dress, because of the clothing you use, because of whatever it is that you do in your life, in your everyday life. And this is not an option for you, and you have to go with something smaller. Maybe it's not even legal for you to have something like this or this, wherever it is that you are. We're all different, our circumstances are all different. And that being kept in mind, this is not a bad option. The Victorinox line of pocket tools is actually excellent, it's time proven, and it's indeed a viable option. So even though I believe there are better alternatives, this is actually a very good choice if you have to stick to these parameters, if you have to stick to this type of size and weight because of whatever circumstances you're involved in. The Victorinox line of knives have been used for what is it, over 100 years now? Hard to say. The tinker has several tools that will come in handy, and there's very few of those nonsense tools, the way I see it. You know, some of these, like the orange peeler and such, that kind of thing that, you know, you just never end up using. They may end up being used for something else. For example, if I bring up one of my favorite little Victorinox is the Mini Champ. It has actually a little orange peeler in there, which I've never used for peeling an orange, but for making a small hole in wood, yeah, it actually does that. Having little tools like that allows you to use your imagination and use them for something else. This would be another mindset of use. This would be having a basic pocket knife that has the essential tools that you need. The tinker basically has your average, well-known large blade, which is a spear point blade of 2 3/4 of an inch length. Actually, let's measure that so as to make sure. Okay, and 7 millimeters, 2 3/4 of an inch length, and 7 millimeters. 7 centimeters, which is well sized for, you know, those average daily tasks. The Victorinox may be so common these days that we take it for granted, but there's so many things that are done right by Victorinox. And I'll just mention a couple of them. The steel in the Victorinox is often underestimated. People think, oh, the Victorinox steel is just so soft and this and that. It's bullshit. That's crap. Victorinox knows knives better than 99% of these companies out there these days that think they've rediscovered the wheel. No. Victorinox already discovered the wheel, and Victorinox already discovered that the steel they use, Victorinox uses a steel that is called X55 CRMO14, which is basically similar to a 440B steel. It's actually a pretty good steel. It's a little bit better than 440A, and maybe not as good, not as much carbon as 440C, but at the same time Victorinox has it so narrowed down the way they do the heat treatment that they end up with a fantastic blade. Okay, remember guys, it's not the steel, it's the heat treatment and the blade geometry that most of the time gets the trick done. And there are many examples of supposedly excellent steel that gets ruined by poor geometry, poor heat treatment. That's not the case here. One more thing is the blade finish. This mirror finish that you see here is not that common these days. Actually, I'm a little bit upset about many of the blades you see these days that have an awful finish. The commonly used epoxy paint finish, it may look very cool, tactical and whatnot. It is not that functional. Unless it's a specific military use that you have in mind, something like this, a mirror finish polish, would be much better. It not only allows for a blade that it's not that likely to rust, it also means that it's easier for cleaning, especially if you're going to be using a knife like this for, you know, stuff like maybe preparing food, maybe preparing yourself a sandwich. If the blade is dirty, you're going to be getting sick very soon, because small pieces of food get left behind and such, and there's the possibility of food poisoning. You need a blade that is easy to sweep clean and have ready for the next use. And while we're talking about rust and pitting and such, Victorinox uses stainless steel. And if you hear some of these guys that some of these experts and such that say, oh no, a survival knife has to be a carbon steel knife. No, actually it's the opposite. A real survival knife has to be a blade that does not rust on you, like, you know, while looking at it. Carbon steel is okay. I have plenty of carbon steel blades, but they have the problem that they can rust. And even though sometimes it's exaggerated, sometimes people think that everything's going to be rusting to bits and disappearing in a pile of dust, which is not the case. For something that you're going to be using maybe for preparing food, I'd much rather go with stainless steel polished like this. This is much more it's easier to keep clean. It's also going to be cutting better because there's less friction in the surface as well. Very sharp, of course. The large blade of the Victorinox, it's it's the one by which all other knives are measured, basically, especially all other pocket knives. You also have a small blade. This one is just, let's measure it again, 1.5 inches, almost 4 centimeters. The small blade is a blade I've learned to love because it allows you to use your larger blade for general use, while at the same time keeping that smaller blade for those more delicate tasks where you want a sharper edge. So the larger one is the one you use on daily ordinary basis, and this tip eventually does wear out. I'm talking of years, guys, of use, not just maybe a few months, even a few years. I'm talking about decades of use, you know, like yeah, let's bring it up like this. This is what it ends up looking after decades of use, and if you're careful, like I am, it's gonna be lasting you that long. I ended up changing the little panels here because they broke as time went by. But I've had quite a bit of experience with Victorinox knives. That's why I can talk with authority on it, because I've used them for, oh man, I don't even want to know how long it's been. Then you have, this is again a no frills basic model that has what you need and nothing that you don't need. You also have the small flat screwdriver and can opener. On the other side you have your bigger flat screwdriver, cap lifter, bottle opener, and wire stripper. It could be used within reason as a pry bar for a little bit of prying tasks, always keeping in mind that it's a pocket knife and it's not a tool specifically designed for that. So within reason, within care, you can open a few cans of paint and such. You can open a box or two, but being careful not to overdo it. Finally, on the other side, you have the punch or reamer with a hole for sewing in some cases. But this is basically for punching holes through leather, drilling holes through wood, which actually does work very well. If you've never tried it, it does work very well for drilling holes in, yeah, this amount of wood, maybe a little bit more. But as long as you have a little bit of sharp edge left there, it's gonna be drilling through wood rather easily, actually. Yeah, it's not the most practical thing, but it can be done. I know I've done it several times. And that hole there allows you to thread through material. And the Tinker model, what has is instead of having your ordinary and the commonly available corkscrew, is just a Phillips screwdriver. I think that it's much more handy than the corkscrew. I don't remember the last time I've used a corkscrew, even though I have used it a few times, but honestly, it's going to be much more practical to have a Phillips screwdriver. The disadvantage that I will say, though, is that this is a large screwdriver. This is a large Phillips screwdriver. In general, you will find that it's leaning on a tad on the too large side. A Phillips screwdriver of this dimension, like the one in the Mini Champ, is much more useful. You will find that it's much more useful. Many times I've seen that this just does not do it, does not get the job done, while on the other hand, the Mini Champ, in most cases, this size of a screwdriver gets the job done. Something to think about. I don't know why the guys over at Victorinox haven't realized it. This is just so much more handy. It just fits. 90% of the cases, this one gets the job done. Half the time, this is just too big. At least that's been my experience in normal use. Finally, you have the key ring, of course, which it's not much of a function, and you have the the toothpick, which I don't see myself using much, and yes, the little pliers, little yeah. These are usually handy for pulling out splinters and such, for grabbing something delicately. So you cannot put that much strength into them, but they do come in handy enough times that it's appreciated to have them in your Victorinox. And finally, one more thing, guys, if you haven't noticed this already, there's always in most of these models, most of these Victorinox, there's a little hole there, and there you can keep a small needle, such as this one. So just take a normal needle like this one with a flat head there, and you can stick it there on the side in that little hole. I don't know why Victorinox doesn't provide one already, because the hole is there for that purpose, but it's a way of having a small needle. Maybe you could, using a magnet, you could rub it so as to have it magnified, and that would be used as a compass if you have a bit of water to float it in. So guys, that's it. It's it's one of those things that happens like in cycles. Sometimes you have bigger, more useful stuff. Sometimes you want to go lighter. But all things considered, it's a classic design of Victorinox, improved of course by the Phillips instead of the screwdriver, and it just gets the job done. If you need a no frills pocket knife, this is always a good option, especially for the price. It's going for about $20. Sometimes you could find it for even cheaper than that. So folks, that's all for now. Take care, have a great day, see you on our next video.